Max Gorlin, Melbourne Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
This is Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Footy Club.
Trent Cotchin from the Richmond Footy Club.
Scott Pendlebury from the Collingwood Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Patrick Cooch from the Carlton Footy Club.
It's Rory Sloane here from the Adelaide Crows.
This is Tom Mitchell. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Hey friends, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well and welcome back to another Roundtable strategy conversation as we assemble some of the members of the Coaches Panel to help you with the decisions you need to make heading into round 11. Yep, our final week before the commencement of 4 weeks of multi-buys. We'll talk about that and what's on the pod in just a moment. Before we get to all of that, joining us on the podcast, he's been away for a couple of weeks as young Harry, but he's back dominating like he did on the weekend. It's MiniMonk. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm back. And here comes the chaos.
I'm looking forward to what you've got to bring. Not as you're the chaos, but the chaos of the buys he is very much alluding to. And as you've heard him right throughout, not just 2023, but honestly, since we've started the Coaches Panel, it's fellow co-founder Rids. Hello, buddy.
How you going, mate?
Mourning the loss of your Tigers coach. He's an incredible human coach, that is for sure. I wonder if we'll get time to talk about that on the podcast. But there's a lot I want to get to before we even do that. Want to hit some of our Patreon questions. They've given us some absolute doozies tonight I want to get to. If you would love to join our Patreon supporter group, just like how Ash Loveday and Troy Wilkinson have done inside the past 48 hours, thank you to them for becoming premium tier supporters of our Patreon. You can join them and hundreds of others by jumping online in the link to get early access to some content. They've got some great questions. We want to hit those. I want to talk DPPs, Broadbent strategies and fixture analysis through the multi-buys. I want to talk about a couple of Jason Johannisen replacements. There's a specific DPP player that could unlock your teams through the buys. We want to talk about him. Got to talk about the cash cows and where they currently find themselves. Will Ashcroft might be the key that unlocks your team through the buys. Want to talk about him. But before we get to any of that, arguably the biggest discussion pain point of the week for a lot of coaches centers around one Clayton Oliver. You could probably throw Josh Kelly in the mix in this conversation if you'd like to, albeit at different price points, different injury histories, and also different buy rounds. However, we need to talk about them both. Maybe it's format dependent, but MiniMonk, is it as simple as hamstring, 4 weeks, trade, or is there a little bit more we need to process in the mix before coming to a conclusion?
MJ, you know it's never that simple. You know it's never as simple as yes or no, or you've got to do this or that. Right. With someone like Oliver, the question isn't should you trade him? It's like, the question is, what does it make for my team if I trade him? And what do I do with my team if I hold him?
Yeah.
Because he is the number one player across formats at the moment. That's undoubtable. He is the number one mid in SuperCoach, the number one mid in AFLFantasy and DreamTeam. And he's been playing out of his skin. He's averaging, 120 in AF and nearly 130 in SuperCoach.
It's a beast.
And he managed to play out the last quarter of that game after he tweaked his hamstring, which is very interesting. And Josh Kelly did the same after he tweaked his in the second quarter. So credit to them both for, playing out the game, crediting those coaches with a reasonable score so they don't lose the cash. It doesn't become problematic. But there's a lot to think about with him because, as you said, he has a different buy to Kelly, who I think is a trade no matter what.
Is that because of his injury history?
It's because of his injury history. It's also because he has the round 15 buy, which, let's be honest, most teams are pretty stacked on already. And so flicking someone like Kelly off at that buy doesn't really hurt you as much. Whereas most teams are pretty light on the round 14 buy. There is a few teams that have some problems with that, but someone like Oliver, if you hold him until he's round 14 buy, you're playing 3 weeks. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to be so team dependent. It's about how healthy is your bench. How many trades have you got left? Because I think in AF it's a trade because you've got those trades, use them or lose them. May as well flick them out. But in DreamTeam and SuperCoach, the question is, can you hold him? And the answer is yes, you can hold him, but it's so team dependent. Like if you've got a really healthy bench, you're not carrying too many red dots, you've got that cash generation kicking in, and you've got an order for what you're going to do with your trades, maybe not this week if you're not trading, but up until that round 14 buy, because chances are he's either coming back at round 13 or he's coming back at round 15. I don't expect to see him this week, I'd be very unlikely to see him in round 12, and they may not even risk him in round 13.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with someone like Oliver, it's a 3-week hold, but you also know you're getting back the number one player in the game. And that's where the risk is. If you do trade him out, how do you get him back in? These are the questions you need to ask yourself.
How many trades do you have left? What are the premium to trade ratios you've got left? Even if, and we talked about this on our round review for our Spotify subscribers and for our premium tier Patreons, it's not just as simple as, oh yeah, I got 18 trades left or 16 trades left in limited trades. I can get him. It's the cash generation that comes as an equally important component to it, because now all of a sudden it's, okay, you might have the trades to get it, but can you monetize that maneuver?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that's being really missed, I think, over the last few weeks, is because everyone's trying to force these upgrades, keep the upgrade cadence, got to get a premium a week, get to the buys, complete my team probably about round 14, round 15-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe do a couple of sideways and then go from there. Where is the cash coming from?
Correct.
Teams are going to be struggling to complete, even by the end of the buys. In limited trade formats, there will be people rocking rookies on field at F6 or D6 come the end of the buys, because it's been one of the hardest years for cash generation because of the sub.
Yeah.
Players have had really good games, but then they get subbed the next game. You only have to look at the weekend to see how many rookies were subbed after they were on track for a reasonable score.
Collins, Sharp.
Collins got subbed. Sharp got subbed. Simpson got subbed.
Yeah.
It's really scary for coaches to be thinking about, oh, my rookie's going to make 100K, because before last week, you probably thought Simpson was going to be on his way to reach 300, 310K. You flip him at his buy. Now he's probably stuck at 250K. You can't be banking on the cash generation at this stage of the year. So you've got to have a really solid plan if you are trading him out, to be able to bring him back in.
It's good. And in a minute,
the other thing too.
Oh yeah, go Rids.
Is best 18. Let's not forget best 18 across the buys.
Yeah, correct.
If you've got 22 players, okay, and you planned for round 12, round 13 to have your 21, 22 on field, whatever it is, okay, and you don't have Oliver, well, you're still going to have 21, 20. You're still going to have a decent number, and you're still going to have 2 or 3 bad scores drop out. Like, the only round that it's really going to hurt you in is this round. Round 11. So, yes, it might be a drop of 50 points. It might be a drop of 80 points. Like, there's no captain. Like, because if you get lucky, you're going to, you might get close with the VC loophole, with the captain. That's what we do in the buys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's even possibilities here. So, the thing is, don't focus on 4 weeks. Now, especially, and I'm really driving home in SuperCoach and DreamTeam here, don't focus on the 4-week timeline. It's only really a 1-week real impact timeline.
Yeah, that's good.
And the other thing I'm going to say is that the round 12 and round 13 buys, where you are playing best 18, those are looking like the easiest 2 buys to get through.
Yeah,
because chances are people haven't stacked up hard on that round 12 buy. And that round 13 buy, we only have Geelong and Gold Coast missing, and most people only have 3 or 4 players at most from those teams.
Yeah, we've got a total of 6 over 2 weeks. Yeah,
exactly. And then Clayton Oliver was already missing round 14 anyways. That's his buy. And I don't see a world where he doesn't come back for round 15.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I want to get some of your thoughts, MiniMonk, in a sec about if we are going to trade him, who are some potential candidates? Again, I'm sure it's format dependent on it. But Rids, let's talk through this holding concept just for a second. I know we've touched on it. It's a trade in AF. Is there any situation or circumstance where you could justify holding Oliver in AFL Fantasy, Rids? Or is it, because I'll get to DT and Supercoach in a sec, or is it, too much uncertainty, got to hit the T?
No, I think it's just too much uncertainty, but there is a world. We saw this with Paddy Cripps last year. He had a hamstring and he sort of disappeared and came back within a week. There's every possibility this could happen again. So if you are going to hold, or if you are contemplating holding, then you're going to have someone like a Wardlaw to actually come in and replace and cover for him. But again, this is so problematic, MJ. This comes to variables, yeah?
Correct.
Josh Kelly might be the the one that unlocks the hold aspect.
Yeah.
Like if that makes sense, because you might go a Josh. I'm just going to throw up a possible. You might go, look, I don't own Ben Hobbs today. I've got Josh Kelly. I might go get Josh Kelly, flip him over, get a Ben Hobbs. I might then get my worst red dot rookie off the bench up to a Wardlaw, and that covers Oliver.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the process.
And then I've also going to have 150, 200,000 in the kitty to then explore that in bringing him back in.
Got it. Yep. That makes sense.
Like when I say bring him back in, I'm talking the replacement for Josh Kelly, not Clary Oliver.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm looking at bringing in a premium. Now, you might be able to do a premium from, I'm just trying to think of a Ollie Hollands or a Peddler. Yep. That cash on top after round 12 may get you a Brayshaw, may get you a Jack Steele, may get you a Sinclair. Let's go really out there. Might even get you a Lockie Neal. So, if you planned this, there is a world. And then suddenly they become the Oliver replacement if Oliver does miss round 12. So there is a world where this actually works, but it's going to be a team-specific world.
Yeah, and I suppose like we talked about before, it's also not just team specific, it's what's your appetite for risk, it's what's your position looking at in your side, what's your focus of lead versus ranks. That's why universal advice is always so dangerous to get in this community, because there's so many different inputs that people have in the decision-making process along the way. So just want to flip this back. I'm going to interrupt you, MJ, because I don't do structured questions and stuff, okay? I know you give us a run sheet, but I never... You don't look at it, I know.
Okay, let's go back to Josh Kelly.
Please.
One of the biggest points with Josh Kelly right now, how sure are you he's going to be in that top echelon of mids between now and the end of the year? Like... This could be unlocking your round 15 issue. If you move a Kelly to someone, you actually benefits your buy structure. That actually might unlock that round 15 headache that you've actually got right now.
Yeah, it's really good.
Now, I know we don't like to talk about our teams too much on this.
Sure.
But I am going to use my team for an example. In AFL Fantasy, I was very heavy on that round 15 buy. And one of the paths that I did look at was looking at moving Josh Kelly at that buy. Chances are there's a lot of other people that are in a very similar position with someone like Josh Kelly, where you're very heavy on the round 15 buy, especially in the forwards, which we're going to get to a bit later. But use this as an opportunity to restructure.
Yeah.
Use this as an opportunity to fix where the weaknesses are. If you need a round 15 defender, use this as an opportunity to pick someone like that up. There's a lot of value options down there that we can look at. If you need a round 14 midfielder or forward, look at this as the option to be able to restructure your team and get the right player into the right position as a result of it.
And I just wanted to raise a question here as well. Oh, well, not a question, but more a point. It doesn't have to be 14 and 15. You can actually go to your round 12 player in this instance if you're set up for round 12 now.
Yeah.
Okay. You can take it next week. Let's just use Jack Sinclair, okay, for an example. If you need to, you can actually reshape the whole buy structures, take that one extra round 12, okay, and actually go, you know what? Jack Sinclair doesn't have to be a guy I can target after his buy now. That might open up a possibility of going a Brayshaw, going a Steele, whoever it is.
Sinclair, Neal, those guys you just mentioned before, yep.
Yep, because you know how hard this is going to be to bring in two premiums after their buy on that one given one with three trades. So if you're bringing the one in now for an injured Josh Kelly, why not if your team allows it?
Could you, and I know MiniMonk is going to drop or walk me through the names in a second, could you do that same maneuver for Clayton Oliver? Again, his buys a week earlier. Could you do that structural change as well, Rids?
No.
Interesting. Why not?
You've set, okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, okay? Clary Oliver, you've pretty much molded your team around Oliver as your foundation. That's how you've planned it, okay?
Yes.
So he's round 14. That's a huge difference for a start. You're not alleviating any pressure you got on round 15 straight away. So he's round 14. So what I would do with Oliver, and are we talking AF? Are we talking
either format we can go for, and then we can split through? Just let's make sure we differentiate, because we know a lot of people listen to the Coaches Panel that play all of or most of those formats.
Okay, so Dream Team and SuperCoach, my opinion is he is a must hold.
Oliver, yep.
Yes, only because limited trades.
Yep.
Where are you going to get your cash?
To get him back.
MiniMonk said it a minute ago. You've already, look at your benches. If you've got names like Johnson, Robert, Drury,
Sharp,
Davey, Chesser, Sharp.
I feel sick.
Do you want me to keep going?
No. I feel terribly ill.
Let's throw another one. Constable.
Oh, thanks so much.
Do you want another one?
No,
I can go
really.
another one. Wagner.
No, thank you.
Do you want another one? What about Madden?
Oh.
Like, I mean, and I raise Madden, okay, because there's a lot of other coaches out there that have got a Samson Ryan who is making good coin right now.
Yeah.
But guess what? All of us that have Madden instead and don't have Samson Ryan don't have that cash available.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to bring him back?
Yep.
We're getting to that point, and what we've seen, okay, because of the lack of bench rook cash generation this stage across the formats, and we'll talk about AF, and I'll leave this one for MiniMonk with AF,
sure.
But with the cash gen lacking on your bench, what we're seeing is people are using their D6 rook or their F6 rook or their M8 rook to then go down to another rook they're playing on field to get their next
upgrade
rook up.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're seeing that constantly right now.
So you're asking about where you're going to get the cash for Oliver. Look at what his break-even is across the formats as well. It's not like he's got injured on a 10 or a 15.
No,
he's played out the game. And he's got 108 in AF and DT and 120 in SuperCoach. His break-even in AF is 126. Dream Team is 115. And SuperCoach is 138. We're talking about Clayton Oliver. There is every chance that he comes back and he hits that score and his price doesn't change. How are you finding $990,000 for him in AF and DT? And how are you finding $660,000 for him in SuperCoach? The answer is you just can't. There's going to be teams that if you trade him out, you'll never get him back in. And if you're okay to live with that, then by all means, trade him out. But if you're not okay to live with that, then that's why he's a hold. Now in AF...
Just wait, I just want to jump in for 1 second, MiniMonk, and I'll let you unleash on AF for a second.
All yours.
If you've traded into Clary Oliver in the last 2 to 3 weeks and haven't really copped that points bonus of owning him for the season, unfortunately, it's even more reason to hold him to get that points.
I agree.
Okay.
You've got none of the benefit.
If you started with Clary Oliver and you've copped the points benefit, okay, and I say that loosely because we all know it's dollar like relative and everything else. But the fact is, there's a lot of high ranked teams right now that have owned Oliver pretty much since day one. So I know there's other ones that have traded into him just recently, but that's when you might be able to explore the option of trading him out because you have actually had the point benefit from it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll pop it back over to MiniMonk.
All right. So we've talked a lot about hold in the limited trade formats. Let's look at some names for AFL Fantasy. Now, some of these parallels might be there in Dream Team and SuperCoach. Someone might be like, nah, I don't care. I want the premium. I need that 50K extra. It does something. Sure, knock yourself out. Play the game you want to play the game. But certainly, universally from us three, we'd say hold, build your team around him. You've already done that all year. AF, though, bit more of a trade. Who are the names we should be looking at? Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to go to one particular player who had a standout match last week, which may or may not be a good move.
The good thing about Oliver is that he's $990,000.
Get anyone you
in
like.
AF. You can almost trade in anyone in the game. There's only 2 players that you can't bring in if you were going sideways, and that's Tim English. Chances are you probably can't go and midfielder to a ruck anyway. And the other one's Tim Taranto, who's pretty high.
Probably have anyway, to be fair. Yeah.
Probably. So let's look at the midfielders straight through.
Sure.
We go price order. Brayshaw, really good game. Has the buy in round 12, though. Probably a nice post-buy upgrade.
Agreed.
Sam Walsh, looking like he might get forward status, but it's looking less and less likely as time goes by.
Yeah, 34%.
But still would be a pretty unique player to bring in. So I don't mind it.
Yep.
Bontempelli, round 15 buy. He's been a phenomenal player. Probably someone you could bring in. Rory Laird, round 14 buy to round 16 buy. Absolute start of a player.
Yep.
Been playing injured, slightly sore for the last few weeks. Almost looked back to his best self on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Comes into a pretty good run. You're replacing round 14 buy with round 14 buy. Feels like a pretty no-brainer pick.
Perma-captain,
the other one that fits that bill about the round 14 to round 14 buy is the one that you were alluding to before. Zach Merritt. 150 odd on the weekend. Wow. Massive score.
Yep.
Absolutely off the chain.
Beast.
But there's no one else in that midfield, is there?
No.
Gilles has an injury cloud still.
Yep.
Might miss this week, which means their midfield rotation is what? Merritt, Stringer, Hobbs,
Caldwell. That's the four.
And who are they playing this week?
They're playing West Coast, young man.
Yeah, they are. West Coast haven't been particularly good this year, but you know the one thing they have done the last few weeks? They have tagged. And Xavier O'Neill has done a couple of clamping jobs in the last couple of weeks. Now, Merritt's
Day and Anderson, by the way. Yeah,
exactly. Relatively young players who haven't really had to work through a tag in the past that much.
Sure.
Merritt's probably had a bit more experience with doing that. But a tag is a tag and a tag is a flag. So when you've got Laird
he's
and
done
Merritt,
it, ladies and gentlemen.
Laird and Merritt that are 15K apart that have, I'd say, comparable runs, comparable scoring history, and the same buy.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking to differentiate a couple of players like that, that's where I'd be looking. And so I'm currently leaning to Laird over Merritt as I think he's a better player. I think he's got a higher consistency of ceiling, which is, say, it's pretty good at this time of the year.
Yeah.
And their break-evens aren't that different either. I mean, I think Laird's is a low 100 and Merritt's in the 90s. Their prices aren't going to change too much. They're both in the low 900Ks in AF. You pick up one now, you probably pick up the other after their buy on the run home. There's a couple of other options you can be a bit tricky with if you wanted to go for a defender. I think Doherty is a great unique. He has been phenomenal after his return.
Yep.
If you're wanting to replace him with his counterpart, Christian Petrarca won't gain forward status, probably will be a pretty unique player and should be pretty good. Again, there's a little flag for a tag concern.
Sure.
Last year when Petrarca missed or Petrarca was sick, Oliver got tagged by Aish. This year, Oliver's missing. Perhaps Petrarca gets tagged by Aish. That's a concern, but I don't think it's as likely.
Yep.
And then if you go a little bit further down the list, you've got the likes of Jack Steele, round 12 buy, but he's bottomed out in price and looked pretty good on the weekend
looked good
as well.
Yeah.
And the other one who might be sneaking under the radar a little bit, Josh Kelly's out. Stephen Cornelio is primed to spend 75% time at that CBAs. And again, he's another one who's not heavily owned, but it's around 15 forward. You could have a bit of issue there. But those are the premium targets you should probably be looking at.
Would you, and Rids, I want to talk about a specific player in a second from you that's going to help us through our buys. Would you consider splitting the money on top of Clary, or is it purely take that elite option while it's presented to yourself?
It's a very risky one because we're looking for captaincy options, especially through the buys where you're going to be short on captaincy options because bearing in mind, round 12, round 13 is not too bad. You've still got a lot of your good players, but round 14 and round 15, these are a lot of the players that people had been looking to captain through
most weeks. Correct.
And so you're wanting someone that you can rely on for that captaincy shout. Splitting the cash could be tricky. If you've got a failed mid-pricer or a mid-pricer who's capped out, I think a good example might be someone like Braden Fiorini. You could get a leg up on the competition by trading him early and splitting the difference and getting two guys in that low 800K bracket. But I think I would rather be using the cash using the cash off of Oliver, fixing him to a green dot premium and potentially using the other bit of cash to fix a red dot that's on your bench.
Yeah, some really good advice.
Okay, MJ, I want to explore what you just said a minute ago.
Of course you do.
Well, you just said, would you split it?
Yes.
What have we heard in AF for the whole year.
I believe value is the word you're looking for.
Yeah. So there is a world that you can actually explore value on in this instance. Now, if you can do, and I know what MiniMonk was just about to say about exploring getting rid of that red dot, but let's just look at a Hobbs, for instance.
Sure.
Now, this is riskier, but not risky. Because we're talking about a guy who's got a hamstring, and even if he gets named in a week or 2 weeks' time, who knows where that leads, yeah?
Sure.
Rightio. So, and you got a red dot anyway. Now, let's just start exploring. I'm going to throw up a name who went pop last week, Jai Simpkin. Okay? Now, if you take an Oliver down to Simpkin, you might be able to get a red dot up to a Hobbs.
Yeah, you make about 780K there.
Yeah, 100%. But again, I'm just throwing ideas out there, okay? That's where we're going to go. And there in AF, there is no need to get Oliver back straight away as well if you do trade out of him, rightio? Because we are going to be looking at other options. We got cheap options. Let's look at the guys who are injured that are real value, and let's look at Callum Mills. Look at Tuke Miller. These guys will come back at some stage just after the buys. There is a world that you can actually pivot sideways from a Hobbs, to a Tuke, to a Callum Mills, and not actually need that much extra dollars on his head.
Yep.
So there is a play here. Jai Simpkin. I'm going to throw up another name, and I know you wanted to talk about this, and I definitely wanted to talk about this from the JJ discussion later. What about an Ollie Wines? Look at his next 4. He plays Richmond this week.
Yep.
If you want a sugar hit, do you get a better sugar hit than Richmond right now?
Not for midfielders, no.
No. And I know he's had his injury concerns and everything else, but why isn't that an option? Now, I want to go back a step as well. Why not just look at fixing your red dot and hold Oliver? There is a world that you're only going to lose 50, 60 points for the round and get more information to see what he looks like the round after.
Yep.
Because let's look at it. Round 12 buys the week after. It's best 18. You might be able to get enough numbers, get through to after round 12, and then trade in a guy who's just come off his buy.
Well, round 12 is often in AFL fantasy a preparation round with the trades that you make with the 3 trades a week. You're more preparing the ground for the coming 2 to 3 weeks after that.
And
so
one extra point,
yes.
MJ. We've got an extra buy round.
Yes, we do.
And that buy round is actually the easiest round we're going to actually have for the buys because it's only Gold Coast and Geelong.
Yep.
So we've pretty much got 3 trades we could use however we need to better our teams. That might be freeing up cash. That might be upgrading to a premium that just had its buy. However it works, yeah?
Absolutely.
Why can't you bank some of that cash to look at Oliver back?
Yep.
Like there is a world here. There's so many possibilities. And this is why AF is such a weird world and why we have to dedicate so much effort because there is just every single scenario's in play, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's good. So the buys this time next week, we're preparing for 4 teams to be away that we can no longer pick from. We're talking about Brisbane, Fremantle, Sydney, St Kilda. Those guys this time next week will be without them. But there is one player from one of those teams that as the season has progressed, he's got better. Will Ashcroft is who I'm talking about. I think most looked at him as their trade plans for the year of going, I'm going to run Ashcroft to his bye and then I'm going to do what I can to either make him be the premium up or him to be the pathway to get a premium with an additional trade. However, over the last month across the formats, multiple tons, and then the reminder in the back of our head starts to come, which is this. Last year, Nick Dacos got better as the season went on. Last year, I got off Nick Dacos, who was the best cash cow of the year, And for some, they were able to hold him at D6 for the year. And so with that fresh in their mind, they're starting to think, hang on a second, is Will Ashcroft the essential trade out at round 12 like I'd planned? Or is he one of the keys to unlocking my buy round, both through a best 18 sense, but also in a cash generation and bodies on field? So my question to you both, we'll start with MiniMonk. Will Ashcroft, trade, hold? What are we doing with Will Ashcroft during the buys?
Team dependent,
Good
as
answer.
it always is. But I want to differentiate very quickly and say that he is not Nick Dacos.
Good. I agree.
And I think this is something that needs to be made very clear. Nick Dacos was playing a halfback role very well in his first year, and he's still playing it very well this year.
Yeah.
But Ashcroft is not playing a halfback role. He is playing a midfield role, and he doesn't have DPP as a result of it.
No.
So there is every well that Ashcroft can hit that 800K marker in AFL Fantasy and that, 500, 550K marker in SuperCoach. That could happen. But is he going to be a top 8 or even a top 10 midfielder for the rest of the year?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Agree.
But where you can get tricky with him is if you are already light on numbers for that round 12 buy and you think, I don't need to trade this guy, you can look to hold him until round 16 because his fixture after his buy is great. Round 12 buy, round 13, Hawthorn at the MCG, round 14, the Swans at the Gabba, round 15, the Saints at Marvel, round 16, Richmond at the Gabba, round 17, West Coast at the Gabba.
So as good as it gets for mids.
It's as good as it gets for mids. So if you're wanting to hold him, there's perfectly valid reasons to hold him. If you can think he's going to be my MA, he's going to be the last rookie I take off a field, or maybe him and she's the last two you run, then yeah, there is a world where you can hold him. But I don't think he's going to be in the end of your team. I don't think he needs to be there at round 24 because chances are he's going to get knackered. The buy comes at a great time for him, but he is going to be a tired 18-year-old kid who, yes, he's been really great these last few weeks, but it's going to come to an end. And we even saw that with Dacos towards the end. Yes, he was really good in the back half of the season, but rounds 20, 22, and 23, he popped 60s in AFL Fantasy and averaged about 70 in SuperCoach.
Yeah.
The sugar hit comes to an end at some stage.
Everything does.
So yes, Ashcroft, you could hold him through the buys. You could trade him at his buy, but you're going to be trading him eventually. And so it's all about what he can do for your team if you do trade him at his buy.
It's good. So
MJ, I just want to add on Ashcroft.
Of course you do.
And I've been an advocate on holding him because he's one of those important players to get you through round 14 and 15.
Definitely could be.
And that's after he's had a rest.
Correct.
Okay. That's the important part. He's had a rest in round 12. He comes out. He has 3 games to get you through. That's when you trade him.
Yeah. So it really is 12 or 17 is where we're talking about the trade windows for Ashcroft. So we're talking about trading cows. Rids, I want to start with you on this one. There's 3 guys that are really on the discussion point when it comes to cash cows and cash generation. Now, 2 of the 3, we're having to do what we talked about a few weeks ago, which is there's no cows crisis. There is a cheap cows crisis. You're having to pay up to get these cash generators. So this is AFL fantasy dependent, although there are definitely some parallels in the other formats. George Wardlaw could not have had a more impressive debut. There have definitely been more, but from the type of player he is in the team he is, and against the caliber of inside midfielders he was up against, Wardlaw couldn't have done much more to be impressive.
Okay, MJ, stop.
Yes.
We spoke about this last week, yeah?
Yes.
We spoke about the cash cows.
Yes.
It's not that there's no cash cows.
Agreed.
It's that, and we spoke about it last week, and we spoke about 2 names that you're going to mention in a second in Weddle. Oh, is it Weddle or Weddle?
No, I like your pronunciation. That's more fun for me.
Yeah, right. Let's go Weddle. That's like I've had a bit of Weddle. Now, Weddle and Humphrey. It's just that people don't want to pay up for the rookies.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. It's not that we don't have cash cow options. It's that no one wants to spend it. And let's look at Dream Team and SuperCoach, okay? To get up to these guys, you've got to invest 100, 150, 200,000 to get to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From a dead rook, I'm talking about.
Correct.
So that's the difference. That's why don't we had the discussion a few weeks ago with Dylan Williams. We all agreed at the time he was the number one best rookie at the time to trade into in AFL fantasy.
You just had to pay up for it.
Yeah, everyone wanted to go 100,000 more onto Rory Atkins, who's proven to be just as fruitful. But there isn't an extra investment of 100,000 on that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Humphrey and Weddle, yes, they're still viable options. They're still going to make you money. They're still cash cows. But do people want to spend on to get them?
Spend money to make money. Yeah.
Yeah. Wardlaw, let's talk Dream Team and SuperCoach. And I'm sure MiniMonk's got a very strong view on this as well, because I know I have. If you're trading into Wardlaw this week,
in the limited trades,
that's dangerous all day. He's not on the bubble right now. If he gets injured and he doesn't play the next 2 or 3 rounds
in the buys,
you already got dead rooks. You're in a world of pain, MJ.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's round 15. It's like he hasn't made money. So on top of all that, if you are trading into him, and I'm not saying it's not a play, you can trade into him, but you have to go and get serious cash to get to the premium up. Okay,
yep.
See, that's the second trade. That's the benefit, is the second trade. But you don't just make a trade to get Wardlaw this week.
I agree.
Now, let's talk about Clary.
Why not?
If you're holding Clary and you need Wardlaw to cover, that's the only scenario that I would actually go, you know what? That makes sense. I give you my blessing.
But that's about Clayton, not about George.
Exactly.
Got it.
Which is why I wanted to differentiate between the two.
It's really good. Any more thoughts on that, MiniMonk? Because then I want to ask you about another buy round player that might unlock a few things. Any more thoughts on those trio of cows?
Yeah, I think it's, as Rids has made clear, it's format dependent. I don't think we need to be too afraid in AFL Fantasy to be trading into Humphrey and Weddle this week, because chances are Wardlaw's going to be there next week. He's got the Pies matchup this week as well, which is almost about as unfriendly as it gets for inside midfielders to score against. And so I see everyone saying Wardlaw is the must-get this week. You have to bring him in this week. He's the most traded-in player in AFL Fantasy. I think he's top 3 in SuperCoach and in Dream Team as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's just better to wait the week. Yes, he's going to go up in cash. Yes, his break-even's low, but look at who Humphrey is playing this week. Yeah. They have the Dogs. Okay, it's not a that easy of a matchup either, but
neither was Brisbane last week, to be fair.
Neither was Brisbane last week. His break-even's lower.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a look who
Weddle.
Weddle has, yeah? Weddle has the Saints. He's
One
been
of the
playing
best
off
matchups
half-back.
for halfbacks and wings in the game.
Exactly.
Not last week, but that's fine.
Exactly. So, these are the types of things that we need to be considering. We always talk about the matchups when it comes to the premiums that we're trading in. Why not look at the rookies as well? Because coaches are going to be screaming out for downgrade options for round 12.
Correct.
Chances are there may only be a couple that we get a good look at this week. And I'm really talking about the GWS defenders, because I think that they're the ones that are being really slept on, because I think they unlock a lot for the buys.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Aside from Fleeton and Faye, who have we got as downgrade options? Wardlaw's there, but if you go from this week, you can't get him next week. You're talking about doing red dot fixes at round 12. How are you going to fix the red dots if you're trading back into red dots as well?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you need to be thinking. You need to be thinking about, where is my team going in round 12 and onwards, not just who is the rookie that I must get this week, because it's never as simple as saying a player is a must get.
Yeah, I love that. For reference point, Wardlaw in AFL Fantasy is around about 320K. If he hits a 60, which is a nice sort of roundish figure, he'll make you about $40,000 and be priced around that 360 marker in AFL Fantasy. For about 70K more, you can jump up to Weddle. If he goes a 60, now last week was certainly over and above what he's done, but 60 is probably about right for what he's done. He also will go up about $50,000, be it around that 440 marker, whereas Wardlaw is going to be available and accessible for you at round 12 at around about 360. So what MiniMonk's really trying to highlight is really, really simple. Look at all the options, not just the popular can-do, must-do narrative that's out there. Can you trade into Wardlaw this week? Yes, but it's not essential.
MJ, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, we spoke about Dylan Williams at 350,000.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be sure to pay that for Wardlaw, yeah?
Yeah. Very
so don't be
comfortable.
scared about that.
Well, if you did Wardlaw via Ashcroft, again, this is purely AFL Fantasy, he goes 80, he makes another 30K. All of a sudden, he's 750. 400K straight to Wardlaw already. In one trade.
Yeah.
It gives you the ticket to an option. So just trying to paint a picture that there are multiple ways you can get this. I love that.
But let's remove Ashcroft.
Sure.
Okay. Let's enter a Rory Atkins. Let's enter a Braden Fiorio, the pasta man.
Yes.
Okay. Guys that we know aren't going to be there when we get deeper into the season.
Yeah.
If they're there post their bye, best of luck. But they're not going to make a lot of cash between round 12 to round 13 when they do have the bye. So what are they in your team for? Are they there just to make the points, to cover that extra? They are playing in Darwin for 2 weeks in a row where it is going to be hot. It's going to be humid. It's not going to be real conducive football for wingers, outside type players. Like, why not go a Fiore down? Because it is best 18 in round 12, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, just throwing out different
just some names to help you through. Hopefully this has been helping you and challenging you to think and look at your team with fresh eyes. That's certainly one of the things we hope to do here at the Coaches Panel. We've alluded and talked a little bit about a number of players throughout this podcast already. One of them, Will Ashcroft, is a option that could be the ticket to unlocking your buy round structure and strategy. There's another, though, MiniMonk, you want to put some attention on that I know some had thought, yeah, going after this guy in one format. But you want to propose that potentially this guy could be one of the keys to unlock your team across the formats.
The one that I talked about, I think it was 3 weeks ago on the podcast, before I went on my little hiatus away and disappeared on you for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe had a trip to Bali.
Maybe.
But the one is Darcy Cameron.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I don't get why the community is sleeping on this guy so hard. Because, he's come back from injury. But look at what he did last year. Even with sharing the ruckle with Cogs. Fly's already come out and said it's going to be a 50-50 split. It's exactly what they did last year. It was a 50-50 split. His price is going to be prime.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that round 12 matchup. They're playing the Eagles, which is... There are two matchups that are the easiest on paper at the moment for players to score in. Number one is Ruckman against the Eagles. Number two is key forwards against the Eagles.
Ta-da.
Where is Darcy Cameron going to be resting if he's not in the ruck? It's going to be at full forward, where he is going to be, a 2-meter monster that those defenders are not going to be able to deal with.
Agree.
So I honestly think that if you're not looking to trade into Darcy Cameron next week, you've missed a trick, because I think he should be the most traded in player at round 12, because not only does he have the matchup to end all matchups, not only does he have the price tag, but he unlocks your ruck line.
Correct.
He's a round 14 ruck forward.
No one has
Provides
rucks
you
in
with
round
that.
14.
No one has rucks in round 14. But not only that, he covers you in round 12, which is when Rowan Marshall is missing, which is when
Correct.
Sean Darcy is missing. And he covers you in round 15, which is when Tim English is missing.
Correct.
This is exactly what you need. And worst case scenario, he ends up as that ruck cover for you in limited trades, swing between F6 and R2 if he's needed because you lose a ruckman for a period of time. And if he's F6 for your team in AFL Fantasy come the end of the buys, you're laughing.
That's fine.
Because he's 650K. You know, look at players that are more expensive than him. It's ridiculous. Will Ashcroft is 720K. You make 70K trading Ashcroft to Darcy Cameron. You know, Rory Atkins is 550. He's going to be 580, 590 by the end of this week.
It's less than 100K to pull the trigger in a week.
It's ridiculous. So,
yeah.
And again, I cannot stress this enough. Checked his role this week. His time on ground was low last week. If his time on ground bumps by, 8-10% this week, he's clearly building into his fitness. You can see that with his scoring. Most of his scoring happened in that second and third quarter, and he had a very poor last quarter. But if his fitness base builds again another week, got another match under his belt, coming into the juiciest matchup ever, he's the one to look at.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Rids,
MJ, I got one more.
No, I thought you would.
Max Gawn. Please monitor Max Gawn this week, people. Because if you don't like Darcy Cameron and Max Gawn goes into the ruck for that 60-70% extra time because he's had a shocker last week, keep monitoring because he is super ridiculous cheap. And if he gets that forward eligibility after next week, he may actually serve you a great purpose.
Yeah, he's right on the borderline at 35% at the moment, which is the threshold. So he's there, but he's going to need to hold that percentage. He's come in about 5% from where he was just a week ago. So a heavy move challenge, but we'll see how we go.
But you'd have to think though, MJ, because it's ruck splits, it's a little bit different to the other positions. We talk about a 50-50 split between two good rucks. Even if it's a 60-40 split in Gawn's favour, that's going to be really close, It's probably going to tip him away from just being in the rucks. But what that does is it rises this level of potential of scoring because he's in the ruck more. So either way, there's a positive around this.
I think so. Yeah. Now, they are playing against another two-headed monster team this week in Fremantle. So I think that bodes only well for Max Gawn in terms of how they try to work Darcy and Jackson over. So I think that's actually a positive. It's not like they're playing other teams. They're going to need to have both of those boys to beat them through there.
I think Maxi Gawn would like to relish that matchup with Luke Jackson this week.
Think so too. It wouldn't surprise me if they go, Brody, you can take care of Big Sean, work him around the ground. Leave Luke to me, young man. That wouldn't surprise me one little bit if that's that matchup. I'll get to Johannisen guys from you in a second, Rids, because there's some guys SuperCoach specific I want to get. But MiniMonk, as we've been recording, some news about Caleb Sarong just landing that, didn't train with the main group this morning on some light duties after tweaking his ankle. We'll find out Thursday night. And so, again, people might be listening to this and already social media or the club might have already confirmed it, let alone team news. But not the greatest news owners are wanting to hear, especially if they've got a Oliver and a Kelly to navigate this week too.
Yeah, not particularly great news. But the good news, if you are a Sarong owner, is you're probably holding him anyways because he probably, even if he misses this week, he's got the bye the week after. And Freo's run opens up so much after the bye. So even if he misses, you're probably holding, even in limited trade formats, even in AFL Fantasy, just hold the guy.
Yep, I don't mind that. So Johannisen has been one of the best mid-price buys of the year. His defender forward status has opened up so many options, and the moment since pretty much round 3, he's gone back to his 2016, 2017 halfback run. He started to return to the scoring capacity of what we saw him in that time. However, long-term hamstring injury, 2 months minimum. does mean he needs to go. There's no ifs or buts around holding that. He's a trade in your classic formats. Rids, in SuperCoach, there's 3 names I want to throw to you. And I'm keen on your take. There's probably some parallels for these names too in DT and AF, but focusing on SuperCoach. Ollie Wines, who you've already alluded to. Simpkin, who's already come out through this podcast as well. And then the last name I want to put in this combination is Bailey Dale. What's your take on those 3 boys as an avenue and pathway via Jason Johannisen?
So Bailey Dale, and he hasn't had the greatest of seasons, yeah?
No.
And he needed something to happen to actually kickstart his year. This might be what happens to kickstart his year. We know he's going to be close to best 6, best 10 defender if he plays like he did last year. If he's the number 1, even the number 2 distributor, and we saw it last week, it was Bailey Dale who took the kick-ins. It wasn't Ed Richards. So we already seen it be reverted across. Now, I don't know what this means with Caleb Daniel in this mix. I really don't have any idea what that means from that perspective. But I think Bailey Dale is a very live option at a very cheap price point in SuperCoach. I want to throw one more name, though. And I want to throw Jordan Ridley in there too. Last week was his best game of the year, pretty much. Now, I think what's happened in this world is, and I know people are talking ill of Baldwin at the moment, but the thing is, he's come into the team and he's pretty much been the Laverty replacement whilst he's been injured. And I know Laverty's coming back, but they play the same purpose. What they're doing is they free up a Ridley to play that interceptor, third tall type position. So I wouldn't discount him either.
Yep. I think it's a good call. For what it's worth, it's only ever an in-game change, but in-game against the Crows, it was Bailey Dale, not Richards, not Daniel, that got that gain. However, Adam Treloar's back within 2 weeks. We know that it's been more Bailey Smith that's got that direct bump, but it's this cascading player in movement change, things can come. So definitely not a lay down misère that it's coming his way, but absolutely.
And every year we talk about who flies home.
Yeah.
We talk about it every year. There's always 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that get a role change, that fly home, and they are top of their line. We talk about it every year, MJ. We've been doing this for what, 10, 15, 16, 17, I don't know how many years, but every year we see it.
Yeah.
There's a role change. Guess what? Johannisen's injury means there's a role change that's going to happen here,
for a couple of months,
and it's likely to be Bailey Dale.
Yep.
Yep. So you're talking about Daniel just before. If you look at the CBAs, when Daniel's had high CBAs, round 2, when Treloar missed, round 7, when Liberatore missed, round 8, he got a fair chunk and Bailey Smith got none. But then round 9 and round 10, when Treloar's been out as well. So chances are Daniel's staying in that CBA mix until at least Treloar comes back.
Yep.
And that gets you to the bye. That gets you to when Dale has his bye. You don't have many defenders that have that round 15 bye probably.
Yep.
It's definitely one to monitor because at worst case scenario, you get to that bye and you say, right, I've seen it for 4 weeks. I've seen it when Treloar comes back into that team. Daniel goes back. He's got the distributing role. Let's just jump off of it instead.
Yep.
It's fine. That's an absolutely fine move to make because we've already seen that he's got the bump bid game and chances are that's going to hold through for at least the next 2 games.
Yeah.
MJ, his break even in SuperCoach this week is in the 20s.
It's crazy.
And he went 100 plus last year off memory too in that format, in that role. So,
and the best thing about that is that 140 he got last week doesn't matter really if he pops another 100 plus. That's going to be in his 3-round average for the next 2 games. That's money.
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about that worst case scenario. You're moving him at the bye. Gosh, fine. You pocket 100K and 100 average between now and then. Yeah. You're doing just fine. with that move. We've alluded a lot to some of the challenges and pain that's going to come through the bye rounds. We'll unpack this a lot more for you next week in the podcast. You've already got some great advice that's talking about that incoming pain in round 15 and some of the moves you could make through the multi-bye rounds. We're going to unpack that for you next week on the podcast. I'm just telling you that, telegraphing that for you already. But,
so, MJ, what you're telling people is ignore the buys. We're going to tell you advice next week. So don't even think of the buys. Just trade in whoever you want.
Yes, that's what I'm
saying. And we'll work it out next week.
Yes, thank you, Tom Brown, for that. That's exactly what I was saying. Let's talk about the buys in that, though. Can you give me a Broadbent, boys, that's going to get me through? Now, a Broadbent is a terminology that our young friend Rids deemed up about a decade ago. But in purest sense, it's players that have a change in role, have a nice fixture, and a price point that means that in a 3 to 4 week window, with all those variables combined, you're going to come out of that 3 to 4 week window with a guy that, God willing, has given you premium scores, has gone up in price, and has made you some cash along the way through the lever you pulled at the front end. That's a nice way. Some people call it fixture trading. We call it pulling a Broadbent because everybody that has a podcast has their own terminology. So we're going for it. So why not?
And funnily enough, MJ, before we did called it a Broadbent, we called it taking a ride. The taking a ride was jumping into a mid-pricer with a very low break even and taking the ride to a premium.
Yep. It's exactly what it is. But it's more fun with giving things a fun name. And so we're going with a retired Port Adelaide player because, I don't know, in ode to Kane Corns. Actually, it's the player that we named taking a ride off. So could you boys give me just one player that could, maybe you want to go 2 and break the rules. Rids will give you 6 because he doesn't care what I say. But could you give me a player that we could look at as a Broadbent option, as a mid-pricer, that could be our ticket to a premium over the bye rounds? MiniMonk, lead us off.
I don't have the player to trade in because I've already talked about him. I think it's Darcy Cameron. But I think the trade to trade out, and this might be the mother of all Broadbents if it pays off.
Oh, I like this.
Have we thought about trading out Tim English?
Ooh.
So if you look at who they have after this week, they have Geelong, Port Adelaide, and North Melbourne. Now, Geelong
historically tough matchups. Yeah,
historically tough matchups. Now, Port Adelaide's been a reasonably good matchup for Rucks over the last little bit, but that's been without Scott Lycett in the team.
Correct.
And Scott Lycett came back in last week, and we all saw how Grundy and Gawn went. 60s and 70s. So is there a world where you trade the second highest priced player in AFLFantasy and DreamTeam down to a ruckman who's returning from injury, pocket $400,000 off of that trade, and then look to get English back after his bye? That is an interesting move to consider.
Yes, it is.
It's not one for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, that's correct.
But that is an interesting one to consider.
You've been hanging out with Rids too much this season. I'm loving that. That's one to ponder. Rids, you want to play top that and try to beat that one?
I got the player that you could trade into, but he's not a ruck.
Okay, I'll listen.
Okay, but it's got a caveat on it because this week, okay, they play Collingwood, but his name's Bailey Scott. Now, and I'm not talking just in AF or just in Dream Team or just in SuperCoach. It's actually for all three. He's going to likely, and I think I'm going to throw something out there. He ran with last week. They played blah blah blah. Who did they play last week?
He
ran with Goulden, and he actually did an okay job. But the thing was, Goulden took him to the ball. Yeah. We're talking about insatiable thirsts, okay? And see that? I remembered what that silly term was.
And you've said sugar hit in this podcast. If you're playing bingo of podcaster terminologies, I've said fantasy pedigree. There's another one you can tick off the list.
Okay.
Someone could say pig will be fine.
If I say to you right now, MJ, who's the 3 players with the highest insatiable thirst in the game? Goulden is one of them. He stands there with his hands in the air and looks like a parrot when he can't get, like, look, I'm over here. Give me the ball. Number
Nick
2
Dacos
is Nick Dacos.
Very good, ladies and gentlemen.
And number 3 is the guy
Zach
who's
Merritt.
got I reckon the hamstring guy is pretty bad in Clayton
Clarity.
Oliver.
He's in the mix for sure.
He doesn't mind. If he's had
There's a
55
few.
possessions, he's going to go get another 5 to get 60.
Definitely.
Like, he wants that Brownlow and he wants that premiership, you know? He's that type of guy, yeah? But let's look at number 2, Nick Dacos. They play Collingwood this week. Now, I just said he played on Goulden last week. I reckon he lines up on Nick Dacos here, and Nick Dacos takes him to the ball. There's a monster score that's potentially coming his way.
The week after is Zach Merritt for North Melbourne. The week after that is the Giants. So potentially a Cornelio or Green. And the week after that is the Bulldogs. So
it's like you've seen my notes, MJ, and you saw the actual draw.
Who would have thought?
So you asked me to do homework, then you took my homework and the dog didn't eat it. You just stole it.
That's how I got through high school. MiniMonk, thoughts on Bailey Scott?
Oh, it is a very interesting one. Again, it's one that you've got to be wanting to be not too heavy on that round 15 buy and be willing to be able to trade him out of that buy. But he racked up against Sydney.
Yeah, defender mid too.
Defender mid, you know, we don't have many round 15 defenders that people are trading into. We talked about one before in Bailey Dale. We were doing the full Baileys this week. Bailey Scott, Bailey Dale, Bailey Smith. But yeah, it's a play. It's a Broadbent. His break-even's low.
You've given me what I asked, so I cannot be disappointed in you boys in doing that. Really quickly, I want to run through a couple of DPPs before we get to our Patreon questions. There is plenty of advice and data that is now out there. If you were doing the DPP speculation, even 3 years ago, you had no clue. To be honest, Champion Data kept it very close to their chest. A lot of it, you know, shout out to Tim Mitchell and the guys at Code Sports and SuperCoach gang are kind of making this information a lot more public and making it a little bit easier for us to get some visibility and some planning. That said, there's some guys that are DPP. So I want you boys to put on your Nostradamus hats for a minute. I'm going to work through the relevant names and I want you to tell me, do they get the position or do they miss the position? Because after this round, we're about to get some new DPPs. Very simply, in a word, yes or no. Max Gawn, mid-forward. MiniMonk?
Mid-forward?
Ruck forward, sorry. Mid-forward would be awesome.
Ruck forward, yes.
Rids?
I'm going yes, because that's just the way it is.
All right, fair enough. Christian Petrarca, mid-forward. That's who I'm thinking of.
No.
No chance.
Dylan Williams, defender forward.
He's running at 100%, MJ. How's he not getting it?
I just wanted to get a yes. Okay, it's fine.
Lock.
Oh well, let me put my thinking hat on and be Nostradamus. Yes.
All right, fair enough.
What a surprise it's going to be for everyone. 98% defense right now. He's going to pick it up.
I'm just trying to get a yes out of you boys. Jaden Short, defender mid.
No.
I'm really not sure what the new coach does.
Yeah, me too.
It's all dependent on the new coach. The new coach might have a hard-on for Short in the back line, and that might lead to a 70-80% game in the back line.
And he's at 34% right now, so the threshold's 35, so he's right on the knock of it.
So I just don't know. That's a hard one, mate.
All right.
Put it this way, he's less chance of getting defence than what Dylan Williams is.
Okay, good to know. That's good. That's not bad from you. Jack Sinclair, defender mid.
No.
Who cares? You're picking him as a defender. Why would you care if he's got defender?
Versatility, Rids. Play with the game, mate.
Not now. Who cares? Just move on. He's a defender already. Be happy. Pick him.
All right, fair enough. Jack McRae, mid forward.
Yes.
Yes, that's a lock.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Sam Walsh, mid forward.
No.
I want to see their team list. I want to see their 22 this week. If they have Hewitt and Kennedy and Walsh and Cripps, yes.
All right. Last two. Ben Hobbs, mid forward.
Again,
Yes.
who cares? He's a forward. Who cares?
Oh, fine, shut up. All right, fine, MJ. Maybe this is more draft relevant, although there were some very excitable people about this guy just 7 days ago. Matt Kennedy, defender mid.
No.
If only, but no.
All right, fair enough. Well,
Plus, it's no good picking up DPP if you're in the VFL in 2 weeks' time.
Not letting loose.
Matt's a lovely man.
I'm sure he is.
He's a very good human being.
Hey, he didn't pick 55 mids in the one team, did he?
No.
He didn't draft it and he didn't go recruiting them.
We love you, Matt. I know you're listening, Matt. So thank you for the great stuff you've done in our draft teams over the years and the support you've given us. All right, let's hit some of our Patreon questions before we wrap up this episode. If this is the standard you've been getting right throughout the past hour or so in this episode, Patreons, I apologize in advance for what we're about to unlaunch from these two legends to answer your questions. If you do want to become a Patreon and support the Coaches Panel, we'd encourage you to do it. You can jump in at the $2, $5 or $10 a month tier, and you get different levels of rewards based on what you do. But let's answer some of these Patreon questions and see if we can help some of these legends out. AFL fantasy question for you. We'll throw this one to you, MiniMonk. Corey Blackledge says, for AFL fantasy, I have Kelly and Oliver. I feel your pain. That's horrible. He's thinking of going Laird and Merritt. The annoying thing is it means he has to keep Warple for another week, and he'd originally planned to get Laird via him. So what do you think? Laird, Merritt, easy 2 moves with those guys?
Check your buys, but it's the pretty logical move, and I don't mind it. I think you kind of have to, and yes, you're holding Warple for another week, but it's the St Kilda matchup. It's not the worst. He should store pretty well.
Yeah.
Can I just quickly add, are you missing out on a cash cow that you should be bringing in then? You're missing out on cash gen on a Weddle, on a Humphrey, on a Wardlaw, whoever it is that you're missing and bypassing that. So that's one scenario that I would be exploring, holding Oliver.
Yep. No, it's a really good shout. All right, SuperCoach question also from Corey Rids. We'll throw it to you. In SuperCoach, should I trade Sard this week?
Yes, you should have traded him last week.
Sorry, Corey. We would have appreciated this question last week. That's all right. Adam's got a SuperCoach question for you, Rids. No, we'll throw this one to MiniMonk. I've got hit with JJ, Kelly, and Oliver. Oh, just when I thought Corey had copped it, Adam says, hold my beer. So he's going to need some assistance. He's got no boosts. Oliver seems like a hold. I think we've made that statement in SuperCoach. Thinking of getting Kelly to Neil and JJ to one of Dale. Doesn't have the favourable buy for him. Brayshaw, high risk, that being Angus. Or should he go down to the rookie mid-pricer and bank some of that cash? If you're Adam, what would you do?
This is a really tricky one. I don't mind the idea of going to Dale. I'm not sure I'd go to Brayshaw. I think, as he says, it's high risk. You're really banking that he goes into that midfield and that he gets the scoring bump with it. Because last week he went into the midfield, but he didn't really get the scoring bump. So that's the concern there. Whereas Dale, yes, it's an unfavorable buy, but he should score pretty well. But I don't mind the idea of going down to a rookie or a mid-pricer because you get that another look. You get a bit more time. You get to figure out who's the option. And yeah, you're going to be trading out Stocker at his buy. Why not have the cash there so you can just do it in one trade? I don't mind that move.
Yep, that's good. AFL fantasy question for you, Rids, from Jake Mack. He says he's got no forced trades, so thinking of doing this. I hate you, by the way, Jake. Rochelle from the Crows to Wardlaw. Wardlaw is going on the bench, and he'll play Williams and Humphreys on the field. Then he can do this. Wilmot to Sicily or Sinclair, or Fiorini to Merritt with Wilmot on field at D6.
Well, to be honest, MJ, let's rephrase that question.
Please.
He says he doesn't have any forced trades, But owning Rochelle, I would argue that is a forced trade.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think he's a forced trade. I think. So what was the rest of the question? Who am I
it
bringing
was
in?
basically Rochelle to Wardlaw. So yes, that is. It means Humphreys and Dill Williams are on the ground. It's Wilmot to Sicily or Sinclair, or Fiorini to Merritt. But he does have to field Wilmot if he gets Merritt via Fiorini.
No, it's the first one. You don't go to Merritt.
So you get the cow.
Yeah.
You get Wilmot up to the premium back, and probably Sicily based on buy structure.
Yeah, Oh, well, it depends on his team. But, I mean,
course.
if he's light on round 12, Sinclair's option.
Yeah. Like if you only have 4 premiums probably on round 12, that's when I'd be looking to go Sinclair. But if you have 5 or 6, I'd be going to Sicily.
And he did say he was going Wilmot to Sinclair as well, which is round 12 to round 12.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. No, fair shout. Ian McRae in Dream Team and Supercoach, what's your thoughts on Darcy Cameron? I think we've spent some nice time answering that for you, Ian, so that's all right. AFL Fantasy question from Hodgie. He says, should we jump on the Lance chance to get one of Humphrey and Weddle, or pass on one of them to grab Wardlaw now? We talked about it a bit, but MiniMonk, you're of the former than the latter?
Yeah, I'm really keen. And I was actually really keen on both of them, unfortunately, until Josh Kelly got injured. I think that these two players unlock so much for your buy structure, especially Humphrey. He's a round 13 mid forward. He's going to generate coin. He's going to be a green dot for you at round 15. He's got the role. I would be waiting on Wardlaw, because not only does Humphrey help fix your buy structure, and Weddle can probably do the same as well, but it gives you that downgrade option for round 12 as well, which we don't know what there's going to be. And knowing that there's a rookie that you can trade into, yes, he's going to be at an elevated price, but you've got that easy rookie to trade into that week. So yes, I think that skipping over Wardlaw this week is a play.
I like that. Shannon has an AFL fantasy question for you, Rids. Johannisen and Coward out, Hobbs and Wardlaw in. He's given a bit more caveat off the back of that. While you think for cash generation, it means he's got a couple of the likes of Ryan and a McAndrew types to field. Or Johannisen and Chincotta to a cow that's basement price up to a premium mid, so the Merritt, Steels, etc. Which of those? He can't quite get up to the Bonts, Walsh, Brayshaws. Which of those do you like? The mid-pricer and the cow in Wardlaw, and field an unfortunate cow? Or, Johannisen and Chincotta to get a basement cow and a mid-price and a premium mid?
Oh, this is so hard, these ones, because it all depends whether Chincotta gets named, yeah?
Correct.
Like, I mean, that's the biggest caveat of them all. I would almost play a rubbish player on field if he does get named. But if he does get named, does that mean he plays on field instead of one of the other two he's named?
Yep. Send us a message, Shannon, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Last couple of questions, then we're done. Dylan has a question for you. Absolute carnage over the weekend. JJ, Haynes, and Oliver. I'm holding Oliver and trading JJ and Haynes. He was looking at Kelly, Butters, or Bailey Smith, looking for a guy with a later buy. Can afford anyone up to 876k. So this is an AFL fantasy question. He does like Steele. By the way, his second trade is Hobbs. So 876k AF. Anyone in that range you like for me, MiniMonk?
Well, I think the tricky part is, he says he likes Steele, but Steele has the round 12 buy. So if you're short on the round 12 buy, Steele's definitely a play. I think Kelly has the round 14 buy, and Butters and Bailey Smith both have the round 15 buy. So again, check your buy structure, but I do prefer Butters and Bailey Smith to Tim Kelly. Players in a better team, more role security. And then it's between the two of them. And to be honest, I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. Both have been phenomenal players, but I think I have less concerns with Butters than I do with Bailey Smith.
Yeah.
I think it's the last 3 weeks. We've seen Butters as a 70% CBA midfielder alongside Rosie. And normally the issue was which one of them is getting the CBAs each week. Now the question is, can they both get the 80% CBAs, because they're both already getting 70%?
Yeah.
So I'd be going Butters of those two.
Yep, I like that one. Second last one for you, Rids. AFL Fantasy. It's rookie roulette style question as he goes into the buys. Is it okay to hold Hollins over knowing he's probably going to lose cash over trading dead rooks like Davey, Cowan, JVR. Wardlaw is looking like an option. What's your take on that? He's given us a Weddle Humphrey question, which we've answered lots in there as well. But would you rather get rid of the red dot or risk losing some cash on Hollins in AF?
But why are we calling those names red dot? Dead cows. Sorry, they're playing, aren't they? Davey, JVR.
Davey is playing JVR. They've got challenging break evens to make money. Is
yeah,
probably
but
the
so has
frame.
Hollins. Yeah.
Yes, he does.
So it's either lose money on that guy or lose money on the cheaper guy.
Yeah.
So it all depends what you can do on the second trade and what that cash will actually allow you to do. So if that cash you can use, yeah, by all means, Hollins can go before. But the fact is, if you're like umming and ahhing and you want scoring potential because Hollins is at M8, and Hollins is the best scoring potential, then go that way. Keep him.
Yep. No, some good advice. All right, last one. James sent us a direct message mid-podcast recording. So thank you, James, for that through Patreon. These are his AFL fantasy trades for you. MiniMonk, let us know. He's looking for a tick of approval. Copped Oliver, trading to Merritt. I already own Laird. Second trade. Davey, want to get one of Wardlaw or Weddle, already own Humphrey, leaning Weddle. Your thoughts?
Check your buy. If you need an R14 defender, perfectly fine to go Weddle. I really think that he has enough role security to make another 50, 100K from here at least. Chances are you can just trade him at his buy anyways. He's going to probably pops a good score during his buys that you take on your field. Perfectly comfortable. Get Wardlaw next week. Lock it away.
MJ, can I just say, that guy seems quite switched on, for AF.
James.
Yeah, because he's actually said that he prefers Weddle over Wardlaw. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm in the same camp to a point. MiniMonk was the one who raised it. He's actually, and he already owns Humphreys. Like,
he does.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing.
He might have been.
Maybe we should get him on the pod next time.
James, send us a message. We'll send you the link. We'll have you on next week, mate. Well done to you. Hey, boys, you have been brilliant. James, so have you for that question. Absolute fine work. MiniMonk, as always, a pleasure, my friend. Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to be back. Cheers for the invitation, and let's get ready for the buys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rids, as always, mate, thank you for not paying any attention to the run sheet or what I've asked you to do.
It's getting way late, mate. I thought you said you wanted to try and keep it down to an hour and then run it over for an hour and a half with all your ramblings and everything.
You can thank James for making us go late on this one. All right, boys, you've been sensational. The last week before the multi-buy hits, like we said, next week, lots of buy strategic conversations, premium moves, players, and strategies we're going to unpack for you next week. Good luck as you head into round.
So ignore your buys until next week, folks.
That's it. I'm done. See you later, Rids.